Seattle rain has a way of making everything feel colder, even when the air isn't. That night, I stood outside my daughter's townhouse, the drizzle clinging to my jacket, the warmth of the casserole dish seeping into my palms. I'd made it from Laura's recipe, my late wife, because Emily always said it tasted like home. I thought it would be a nice gesture before her big night. I never made it past the door. Emily's heels clicked against the hardwood as she stepped out, eyes darting over her shoulder toward the laughter inside. "Dad, you should go before my friends arrive." Her voice was low, but not low enough to hide the edge in it. My chest tightened. For a moment I just stared at her, rain dripping off the foil. This was my daughter, the same little girl who once begged me to stay at every piano recital. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I simply nodded, turned, and walked back into the wet Seattle evening. What Emily didn't know was that I wouldn't be coming back alone. "Stay with me until the end, and you'll see why I didn't raise my voice, I raised the deed." And please subscribe to this channel. I used to think grief lived in a single room. You walk in, it knocks the wind from you, you sit, you cry, and eventually you stand and leave. But after Laura died, I learned grief is a hallway, long, echoing, lined with doors you don't remember closing. Some days I'd pass the door marked "First Thanksgiving without her," or Emily's 25th birthday, and I'd keep my eyes straight ahead. Other days the doors flew open on their own. The piano at the end of the hallway was always playing, whether I wanted it to or not. Seattle is a city of rain and cedar, of roofs that glisten and sidewalks that remember your steps. I made my living inspecting those roofs, those foundations, counting hairline cracks others chose to ignore. Maybe that's why I made the choices I did after Laura's funeral. I kept seeing the hairline cracks in our family, the strain in Emily's jaw when money came up, the way Tyler's laughter got louder when bills were mentioned, the way Laura's baby grand, her pride, sat silent, needing to be tuned. Laura had been a music teacher. She could make a beginner feel like a concert pianist just by the way she watched, patient, warm, listening for more than notes. Emily loved the piano when she was little. She'd climb onto the bench beside Laura, feet dangling, and play one-finger lullabies that made us grin like fools. When Emily got older, she said piano wasn't her brand, and I laughed because I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. The townhouse became the plan, the way sensible things do, slowly, under the weight of reasons. After Laura was gone, I saw Emily spinning, chasing an image she couldn't afford. She'd send me mock-ups for event spreads that looked like magazine covers, white flowers, gold cutlery, blown glass centerpieces, and then ask if I knew a friend with a van. There were months when her rent arrived, a little late. "Dad, I'm getting paid Friday, promise." I started showing up with groceries. I started pretending it was for me so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. The day I met with our family attorney, I still carried Laura's scarf in my coat pocket. Habit. I handed over the list of assets in Laura's will, and I talked more than I planned about Emily. How bright she was. How she was trying to turn the whole city into her client list. The attorney, Ava Morales, listened the way Laura used to listen to students. Not just for facts, for tone, for the hairline cracks. "What do you want for her, Daniel?" she asked. It surprised me that the answer came out clear. "Security," I said. "And boundaries she can't bulldoze," with a smile. We set up the Carter Family Living Trust, nothing flashy, just a structure we could lean on. The trust would purchase a modest townhouse in Capitol Hill, walking distance to the venues Emily worked, close enough that she could run back for a forgotten cable or a change of shoes. The conditions were simple, almost old-fashioned. It was an occupancy grant, not an outright gift. Emily could live there, no rent, as long as she honored a few promises that, to me, spelled love. Keep Laura's piano in the living room, host a weekly family dinner, even if it was takeout and mismatched plates, and never ever turn me away at the door like a salesman. If any of those were broken, the occupancy would revert to the trust, and we'd revisit the arrangement like adults, not like panicked children grabbing toys. I didn't tell Emily everything that day. I told her I wanted to help. I told her I'd found a place that felt like a fresh start, with good light and a small patio for herbs she never got around to planting. She cried when she signed the papers. "Dad," she said, "you're saving me?" I hugged her and said it was a family decision. Ava's eyes met mine over Emily's shoulder, patient, warm, listening for more than words. The first week in the townhouse was good. We ordered pizza on the floor before the couch arrived. Emily played 3 notes on Laura's piano, then laughed because her hands were rusty. I said, "We'll get it tuned," and we did. The technician leaned his ear against the wood and hummed, and when he pressed the low A, it vibrated through the soles of my shoes and into my ribs. For the second time in months I felt something like home. But like all good weeks, that one ended. Tyler started spending more nights on the couch. He'd come in with stories of bridge rounds and seed money, of warm intros and runway, words that sounded like stairs to nowhere. He always had a new app idea. He always had a friend who knew a guy. I'd watch Emily's face when he talked. It changed. She went a little still around the eyes, like a person learning to nod in the right places. One evening, she asked if we could store Laura's piano in the guest room to make space for a photo wall. "Just for a month," she said. "It doesn't fit the flow." I shook my head. "The piano stays," I said evenly. "It's your mother's. It's part of the agreement, Em." She rolled her eyes and then caught herself. "Sorry? I'm trying to build a brand here." "You're trying to build a life," I said. "The brand can live with a piano." We didn't fight. We didn't need to. The piano stayed. But something shifted after that, small, then steady. Emily started using Tyler's words, like they were coins she was saving. "Optics," she said when I showed up in my work jacket with mud on the hem. "My clients want to feel a certain vibe." She started curating her friends, moving certain people forward in her life like heavenly bodies and quietly dimming others. I found myself scheduling our dinners more carefully, making sure I didn't interrupt a pre-production brainstorming night or a brand collab tasting. Sometimes we ate reheated soup at 9:30 at night, eyes rimmed in blue light from our phones, and still I made sure to say, "I'm proud of you." Because I was. Even if it didn't look like I imagined. There are moments when the hallway door swings on its own. The housewarming invite arrived with a gold foil border and a photo of Emily looking like she belonged in a magazine sharp bob linen suit, a smile that hid more than it showed. Grant and Carter housewarming, it read as if they were equal partners in this home. I rubbed my thumb over the ampersand until it warmed. I told myself names didn't matter. What mattered was family. What mattered was showing up. I spent the day of the party making Laura's baked ziti, the one Emily loved when she was 10. The kitchen filled with garlic and oregano, with the sound of my wooden spoon scraping the pot. I set Laura's recipe card on the counter, the ink faded by oil and fingers. I tucked it into my pocket when I was done, the way a man might carry a talisman. I wore a clean shirt. I brought flowers. I even used one of those lint rollers Emily once bought me as a joke. "For your dad's sweaters," she had said. I pulled up to the townhouse just as the sky turned that particular Seattle silver that means rain is on its way. Music leaked from the open window, something upbeat with a bass drum like a heartbeat. The door stood open to a rush of voices and perfume and the clink of glass. I took a breath and stepped inside. For a second, Emily didn't see me. She stood near the kitchen island arranging a row of champagne flutes like chess pieces, her hair gleaming under the pendant lights. Tyler hovered at her shoulder, scrolling on his phone, nodding at a joke someone made. The piano sat where it should, the lid polished, a small vase of white lilies on top. I felt something ease inside me. "Hey, Dad," Emily called when she finally looked up. The words were bright like alarm lights. She walked toward me, heels clicking, a hand at my elbow steering me back toward the door. "What are you doing here so early?" "Early?" I checked the time. "You said 6. "It's 6. She dabbed at my sleeve with her fingers as if dusting off something invisible. "Right, there's a pre-thing with a few clients, some people I need to talk to before the actual guests come. It's kind of delicate." "I brought Mom's ziti," I said, lifting the foil. "Thought we could set it out when the—" "Dad," she whispered, and there it was, the edge underneath. "Can you—" Her eyes flicked over my shoulder. Laughter rolled from the kitchen like heat. "Can you just come back later? Like after 9? Tonight's important." Tyler glanced up then, saw me, and his mouth tilted. "Hey, Mr. Carter," he said like he was practicing civility. "We're still staging." A younger woman moved around us with a camera, snapping flat lays of the charcuterie. She shot me a quick, cool look. I felt a flush rise in my neck, hot and stupid. "I'll just put this in the oven to keep warm," I said, taking a step toward the kitchen. Emily's fingers tightened at my arm. "Dad, you should go before my friends arrive." The sentence hung there, heavy and metallic. The music swelled and then faded again, like the house itself had a breath I couldn't match. I looked at her long enough to find the little girl in her face, the tilt of Laura's smile, the sprinkling of freckles near her ear, and then I let the picture go. "Of course," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's. "I'll see you after 9. A client near the island's slick hair, white teeth caught our exchange. His mouth curved. "Love the authenticity of the space," he said to no one in particular, and his eyes flicked toward my casserole. My fingers tightened on the edges of the foil until the heat bled into my skin. I backed out of the house the way I'd backed out of bedrooms in the dark when Emily was small, careful not to wake her, careful not to disturb the fairy lights she'd strung across the window. The night wasn't fully night yet. The drizzle had begun, fine as breath. It gathered on my jacket shoulders and dripped off the angled edge of the casserole cover. Somewhere, a bus sighed to a stop and then moved on. At my truck, I set the dish on the seat and climbed in. I didn't start the engine right away. I watched the townhouse through the windshield, the rooms glowing like aquariums, bodies moving inside, Emily's silhouette tall and quick as she laughed at something someone said. I felt a pressure build behind my ribs, a low, steady ache I recognized too well. I pressed my thumb and forefinger to the bridge of my nose. Not today, pride, I thought. Not today, anger. A few breaths later, I took the recipe card from my pocket. The ink had blurred a little where steam had kissed it over the years. Laura's cursive curved along the lines like a melody. On the back, in tiny letters, she had once written, "Love is patient, but it is not a welcome mat." I didn't cry. The hallway door didn't slam. What happened was simpler. I realized I had built a structure for a reason. The trust wasn't a net to catch Emily when she fell. It was a frame to teach her what standing meant. I could uphold it without raising my voice. I could, as I'd told her when she asked me to store the piano, be steady. I started the truck. The engine coughed, then settled. I set the casserole on the floor and pulled my phone from the console. My hand hovered for a moment, not because I doubted what I was about to do, but because I wanted to choose my words. The call connected on the second ring. "Daniel," Ava said. "Everything okay?" "Evening, Ava," I said. My voice had found its own footing. "I'm going to need you tonight." There was a pause, the kind made of listening. "Tell me what happened." I told her the words exactly, because words matter when doors swing. She asked me to leave before her friends arrived. She said it quietly, but not quietly enough. And I didn't argue. Another pause, then the sound of paper shifting. "And the weekly dinners? Has that been consistent?" "Yes," I said. "Even if we ate late." I showed up. We ate. The piano's still there. I checked. "Okay." She exhaled. "I'll pull the trust language." "Where are you now?" "In the truck," I said, watching the house, the shadow of my daughter moving inside. "Parked out front, trying not to let the rain steal my nerve." "It won't," Ava said. "I'll meet you in an hour. Bring the original recipe card if you can." A recipe card?" "You told me once Laura's notes guided your decisions," she said gently. "Bring the thing that reminds you why we built this in the first place." I nodded as if she could see. "All right." "Daniel," she added, her voice quieting at the edges, "we're not marching in there to humiliate your daughter. We're going to enforce the agreement you made out of love. Stay calm. We'll be precise." "Precision I can do," I said, and a half laugh escaped before I could stop it. "I've made a career of it." "Then tonight is just another inspection," she said. "Call me when you see me pull up." When I hung up, the rain had thickened. A couple hurried past my truck under a shared umbrella, their laughter rising and falling. I leaned my head back against the seat and stared at the roof liner. The pale fabric cracked in one corner where a box had scuffed it during the move to the new place. I thought of the first time Emily called me Dad, when she was tiny and tottering around Laura's classroom. I thought of the last time Laura kissed my cheek in the hospital, the way her breath smelled faintly of mint and piano varnish. I thought of all the doors in the hallway, and of the one at the end that still played music even when no one sat at the bench. I picked up the casserole, cradled its warmth, and slid it into the insulated bag I'd brought without thinking. The ziti would keep. The night would not. I checked my watch. 51 minutes until Ava said she could be there. I didn't go far. I drove 2 blocks and parked under a maple that shook rain from its hands onto my windshield. I texted my sister Monica, a single line. "Swing by Emily's if you're free. Might need you later." She sent back a question mark and a heart, then "on my way after choir practice." I didn't have to explain. She'd show up without the need for a stage. The city hummed. Somewhere, a saxophone practiced through an open window. The smell of wet asphalt lifted like steam. I rested my palms on the steering wheel, felt the cool, fine texture of the leather under my skin, and let the minutes tick. The thing about hairline cracks is that they don't fix themselves. You address them or they widen. Tonight I would address them. I slid the recipe card back into my pocket, the paper gone soft with time. Then I turned the key, pulled from the curb, and made a slow circle through the neighborhood until the clock caught up to my resolve. When it did, I headed back toward the townhouse, toward the glow and the bass in the door that had just closed behind me. I didn't plan to knock loudly. I didn't plan to raise my voice. I planned to arrive with the one thing Emily didn't anticipate, the quiet weight of what she'd already promised. The hour between leaving and returning was the kind of hour that feels both long and short, too much time to think, not enough to act. The wipers kept rhythm with my thoughts, each pass of the blades clearing away the rain and bringing back the memory of Emily's voice. "Dad, you should go before my friends arrive." It played over and over. Not shouted. Not said in anger. Just dismissive. And maybe that was what cut deepest. Anger at least admits you matter. Dismissal tells you you're an inconvenience. I parked again a few houses down, close enough to watch the townhouse but far enough not to be noticed by anyone peeking out the windows. The inside was alive with shadows and light, guests moving like actors in a play. I thought of the weekly dinners we'd managed to keep, even when they were awkward, even when she barely looked up from her phone. The trust clause wasn't just about rules, it was about connection. It was about making sure we never ended up strangers. My phone buzzed. A text from Monica. "What's going on? Tyler's here?" I typed back, "Yes. Don't come yet. Let me set the stage." That phrase, "set the stage," made me think of Tyler. He loved a performance, the kind where he could play the lead even if the script didn't fit. I'd learned early that his charm was all polish and no weight. He was the kind of man who could talk about future wealth, while his current bills lay unopened. I had proof. Months ago, Glenn Rhodes, a realtor I'd worked with years back, called me to give a heads up. He'd seen an inquiry from Tyler about testing the market for the townhouse. "You know anything about that?" Glenn asked. I told him the truth, that the property was in a living trust and couldn't be listed without trustee approval. Glenn had laughed. "Then your boy's wasting his time." But Tyler didn't stop there. I'd seen the casual way he borrowed Emily's laptop, how he offered to handle certain emails for her. I had my suspicions that he'd tried to forge some kind of written permission, but at the time I let it go, thinking maybe Emily would see through him. Now, sitting in the truck, I knew that was over. If I'd learned anything from Laura, it was that when someone crosses a line you've drawn out of love, you don't redraw it, you hold it. My phone rang. "Eva." "I'm 3 minutes away," she said. I could hear traffic behind her, the steady hum of Seattle's weekend crowd. "Park in front," I told her. "I want them to see you arrive." "You sure you want an audience?" she asked. "Yes," I said, watching the townhouse door swing open to welcome a couple carrying wine. They made this public the moment they decided I wasn't welcome here. When Ava pulled up, she was exactly as I'd pictured: dark trench coat, leather portfolio in one hand, umbrella in the other. The kind of presence that said she wasn't here for a social call. She slid into the passenger seat and closed the door against the rain. "Walk me through it again," she said. I told her everything. The dinners, the piano, the exact words Emily had used. And the way Tyler stood there, phone in hand, smirking. She flipped open her portfolio, revealing the trust documents. Clause 4. Occupancy is contingent on maintaining family access, defined as the trustee's unrestricted ability to visit during reasonable hours. Clause 5. Property must retain the specified heirloom in a primary living area, the piano. Clause 6. Breach of either condition triggers immediate reversion of occupancy rights to the trust. She tapped the page with her pen. "You've got them. Tonight. Clean breach." "Emily might fight it," I said. "She can try," Ava replied. "But she signed this as beneficiary and Tyler's not on it at all. Legally, he's a guest here, nothing more." I thought of the people inside, the champagne flutes, the curated lighting. This wasn't just about the law. It was about dignity. Mine. And ironically, Emily's too. What's your approach? I asked. Measured, she said. We go in together. You don't raise your voice. I read the clause in a neutral tone. If they push, I remind them of the sheriff's standby scheduled for Monday. If Tyler tries to speak for Emily, I cut him off politely but firmly. The plan was clear. Still, I hesitated. Ava, she's my daughter. And you're her father, she said. Fathers teach lessons. Sometimes that means saying no. We stepped out into the rain, her umbrella a black arc over both of us. The bass from inside thumped in my chest as we climbed the steps. Through the front window, I saw Riley, the best friend Emily trusted with everything, glance our way. Her eyes narrowed. She whispered something to Tyler, who turned, saw us, and set his drink down with a smirk. Emily appeared at the door. Her smile faltered when she saw Ava beside me. Dad, what's going on? I brought my lawyer with me, I said. Conversations inside began to slow. People looked over, curiosity blooming like weeds. Riley drifted closer, clearly smelling drama. This isn't a good time, Emily hissed, trying to keep her voice low. I stepped just inside, the smell of rosemary and wine filling my lungs. I think it's exactly the right time. Tyler joined her, his hands in his pockets. Is this about earlier? He asked as if it were nothing. Man, you're making this weird. Ava opened her portfolio. Mr. Grant, you're not a party to this trust. I'd appreciate you not interrupting. That shut him up briefly. Emily's face went pale. Dad, can we talk in the kitchen? Of course, Ava said, but since there are witnesses here, I think it's best we remain in the main room. Emily glanced around at her friends, clearly calculating the optics. Riley pulled out her phone, pretending to check messages but angling the camera just enough to capture us. This is private, Emily said. No, I replied, keeping my voice steady. You made it public when you told me to leave in front of others. Her mouth tightened. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? I asked. My daughter looked me in the eyes and said, You are not welcome here. The words landed heavy in the room. Someone near the back coughed. Tyler shifted his weight. That's not what Emily began, but Ava raised a hand. It's exactly what you said, Miss Carter, Ava interjected. Which constitutes a breach of Clause 4 in your occupancy agreement. Under the terms of the Carter Family Living Trust, this property reverts to the trustee's control immediately upon breach. The air changed. Conversations that had been bubbling in the corners went flat. Even the music seemed quieter. Tyler tried to laugh. You're seriously kicking your own daughter out? At her party? No, I said evenly. I'm holding her to the agreement she signed. And she's not the one I'm asking to leave tonight. His smile slipped. Riley's eyes darted between us, clearly enjoying the tension. Mrs. Whitaker, the neighbor, was there too, invited for appearances, no doubt. She crossed her arms, a knowing smirk on her face. Emily shook her head, cheeks flushing. Dad, please, we can talk about this tomorrow. We can, I said. But the legal reversion is immediate. Ava? Ava nodded. I'll have the sheriff's civil standby scheduled for Monday morning. In the meantime, Mr. Grant, you'll need to vacate the premises by then. Miss Carter, you may remain under the trustee's terms, which include weekly family dinners and preservation of the heirloom piano. Any further breach will result in full removal. Tyler's face darkened. You can't. I can, I said, my voice firm now. And I will. This isn't about money. It's about respect. And you've both been running short on that lately. Emily's eyes glistened, though whether from embarrassment or anger I couldn't tell. She didn't speak. Ava closed her portfolio with a soft click. We're done here for tonight. Mr. Carter, shall we? I nodded, but before I left, I set the insulated bag on the counter. Laura Ziti, I said quietly, for after your guests leave. And then I turned toward the door, the sound of whispered speculation rising behind me. As we stepped back into the rain, Ava glanced at me. That was clean. Painful but clean. Hairline cracks, I murmured. Better to seal them before the house falls down. We walked to the car, leaving the warm light of the townhouse behind, its shadows still moving, but slower now, like actors realizing the play had changed mid-scene. The rain sharpened after we left, like the sky had decided to have its say. Ava's umbrella snapped open. We moved under it in a quiet choreography you can only do with someone who knows where you're headed. She didn't speak until we reached her car. Inside, the cabin smelled faintly of coffee and paper, a clean, sober smell that steadied me. We'll give them an hour, she said, checking her watch. Enough time for whatever story they're telling themselves to take root. And then? I asked, staring through the windshield at the townhouse 2 doors down, the glow in its windows humming like a nerve. And then we pull it out by the root, she said. Carefully. We didn't drive off. We idled half a block away, wipers metronoming the minutes. I tried to listen to the city, the hiss of tires on wet asphalt, the distant siren unspooling and then vanishing, but under the noise was a deeper frequency I couldn't tune out. Emily's voice at the door, the exact cadence of, Dad, you should go before my friends arrive. It played like a loop. I let it. I needed to feel its edges so I wouldn't explode later. Ava tapped her portfolio. There's something I haven't told you yet, she said. I turned. Go on. I ran a quick poll on public listings before I came over. Your friend Glenn left a note in our last conversation that he'd seen a pocket pitch no on us, just private feelers for a Capitol Hill townhome with motivated sellers and flexible signing authority. The photos were generic, but the specs matched this address. The contact email ends with grandventures.io. Tyler. She nodded once. If he tried to list or even solicit offers without trustee consent, that's attempted interference with trust property. It's not criminal on its face, but add a forged permission and we're in fraud territory. I felt a muscle jump in my jaw. He'd risk Emily's home to plug some hole in his imaginary company. People risk a lot when they've promised the world and the world starts asking for receipts, she said. We'll confirm tonight. How? I asked. Metadata, she said simply. If he forged your permission, he sent something in email, a PDF. We'll have Glenn forward what he received. If Tyler used Emily's laptop or mail profile, we can pick up traces. And I want to hear him brag. Men like that brag when they think they've won. She said it like reading a schematic. Come. I breathed with that calm. Not today, anger. Tonight, precision. Tonight, the inspection. We returned exactly 65 minutes after leaving. The street looked the same, wet, slick, neon from a distant bar sign trembling in a puddle, but the house had shifted. You can always tell when a room has been told a secret. The air goes tight. The music was louder now, veteran bravado trying to drown the fragile thing that had just cracked. Ava folded her umbrella. Ready? As I'll ever be. We stepped back onto the porch. Riley opened the door before we knocked, phone in hand like a badge. "Daniel," she said, the name dipped in syrup. "We were just talking about you." "Then I'm right on time," I said. Inside, faces teetered between charm and curiosity. Tyler stood at the island like a man taking questions after a pitch, one elbow on the marble, a glass of something amber in his hand. Emily was farther back, by the piano, her fingers resting on its edge like she needed the touch to ground her. She looked as if she hadn't moved since we left, frozen in the idea of being watched. Ava didn't head for the living room. She steered her steps toward the kitchen, precise heel clicks cutting through the bass. "Miss Carter," she said, voice broadcasting without shouting. "Mr. Grant. Before anyone pours another drink, I need 5 minutes in the kitchen." The request spread through the room like dye in water. 5 minutes. A small ask, but it carried weight. Tyler tried to smile through it. "If this is about, earlier," he said, "we've moved past it. Em and I." 5 minutes, Ava repeated, with a slight lift at the end that meant now. She didn't look at him when she said it. She looked at the sink, the stove, the counters, as if confirming the shape of a stage. Emily came halfway. "Ava, please, can we not do this in front of?" "In private then," Ava said, and for an instant Emily's relief flickered. But with the kitchen door open, she turned to me. "Daniel?" I kept my hands at my sides and followed. The kitchen felt carefully constructed. Rosemary sprigs on a cutting board, olives glistening in a white dish, napkins folded into triangles tight enough to cut. I set Laura's recipe card on the counter without ceremony. Emily watched the card the way a person watches a knife placed on a table, curious, wary. Ava opened her portfolio and slid out 2 papers. The trust agreement and a printed email chain. "Before we read clauses," she said, "we're going to neutralize something else." Tyler snorted softly, the sound of a man who thinks the ambush is cute. "Is this where you say we can't decorate without the trustee measuring the curtains?" Ava ignored him. She held up the printed chain. "This is a forward from Glenn Rhodes. It contains a message purportedly from you, Daniel, granting Tyler authority to seek exploratory offers for this home." She set it down, tapped the header. The sender name says Daniel Carter, but the originating address is daniel.carter@cartertrust-services.com. I frowned. "I don't own that domain." "Correct," Ava said. "It was registered 2 months ago through a privacy shield in Arizona. The message references, as discussed on Tuesday, and attaches a PDF titled trusteeconsent.pdf. She pulled out the PDF, printed. "This document bears your typed name only. The signature is a JPEG pasted into the doc resolution artifacts visible. Not a digital signature. No notary. No letterhead you've ever used." Emily's eyes widened. "Tyler, what is she talking about?" "Relax," he said, the word stretching thin. "This is standard. People explore value all the time. Pocket listings. Pocket listings require consent," Ava cut in. "And the file metadata shows the author field as Tyler Grant. The creation software, DokuCraft Pro. The IP address logged by Glenn's server traces to this townhouse's ISP. The message to Glenn came from Tyler at grantventures.io, CC to your shared household account, emiliantillerhome@gmail. Emily's hand dropped from the piano, landing on the back of a counter stool. "You used our account?" "It's just an inquiry," he said, a little too fast now. "And I had a permission email." Ava lifted the printout, then laid a second page next to it. This is Daniel's actual signature sample from the trust. Compare the baseline slant. The variant letter, R. The loop height on the D. Whoever pasted this didn't align the descender. It bleeds into the letter below like a bad decal. She looked at Tyler. This is a forgery. Amateur. Tyler laughed high in the mouth. Oh, come on. You're playing CSI with fonts. Glenn can't prove anything. Glenn doesn't have to, Ava said. We only need to show that you attempted to interfere with trust property. The reversion isn't contingent on your attempted sale. Emily already triggered it tonight. But your attempt makes any plea for leniency very difficult. Emily turned to him, confusion collapsing into something sharper. You tried to sell the house? Test the market, he said, softer. We need runway. The round's been slow and my home, she said, the two words like something she'd swallowed wrong. Was your runway? Out in the living room, the music hiccuped as someone changed playlists. Riley drifted closer to the open kitchen door, phone down now, eyes bright. Mrs. Whitaker's silhouette hovered like a proctor. Everyone hears everything, I thought. Good. Let them. Ava flipped the trust to clause 4 and read. She didn't perform it. She just let the words be what they were. Occupancy is conditioned upon the trustee's reasonable access. A refusal without cause constitutes immediate breach. She paused, let the sentence sit. Then clause 5. Heirloom placement in a primary living area, removal or attempted storage without trustee consent constitutes breach. Emily swallowed. The piano isn't going anywhere, she said quickly, as if those words could rewind the night. I never. Ava nodded. I noted that. You did not remove it. But earlier tonight you said. My voice found itself steady. She told me to leave before her friends arrive. She barred entry. In front of witnesses. Silence pooled. Emily stared at the recipe card. She reached out like she might touch it, then pulled her hand back as if it were hot. Dad, that wasn't what I meant. What you meant matters to me, I said. What you said matters to the trust. I was trying to protect my brand, she said, the word brittle now. From me? I asked and kept my face calm when she flinched. Tyler pushed off the island. Okay, enough. You can quote clauses all night, it doesn't change that you're going to look like a monster if you evict your own kid. Do you know what her clients will think? Do you know what people will think? Ava's expression didn't change. People will think what the facts suggest. And the facts are that you, Mr. Grant, tried to shop a home you don't own, using an email address and signature that do not belong to you. I've already set a hold with the county recorder. Any attempt to file will flag for review. Monday morning, a deputy will be present so we can manage this transition without drama. He laughed again, but it died quickly this time. You can't stop dollars with paper, he said weakly. Paper stops deeds, she said. And deeds move dollars. That's how it works. In the living room, Glenn, I realized, because the universe has a sense of staging, cleared his throat. He'd slipped in without me seeing, a raincoat folded over his arm, his hair damp. She's right, he said from the doorway. I didn't know what I was looking at earlier. Now I do. Tyler blanched. Glenn. I didn't forward any introductions, Glenn said. When I saw the trust, I shut it down. But I kept the messages. You'll want them. He handed Ava a small envelope. Printed and on a flash. Ava slid it into her portfolio. Thank you. Emily's breath hitched, a small sound that made me look at her instead of Tyler. Her face had gone strangely young. Not the curated brightness she wore in photos, but the honest, stunned face I knew from skinned knees and bad grades in the first real breakup. That's my daughter, I thought, a pain moving quietly under my ribs. And she is drowning in something she thought was air. Dad, she said, voice low now. I didn't know. I believe you, I said. And I did. But you knew enough to think I was an obstacle. Her eyes filled, then steadied. She looked at the piano, then back at me. I said what I said because I thought, because Tyler said clients should see me as independent. That I should keep family separate. Tyler stiffened. Don't put this on me. Ava closed the trust and rested her palm on it like a judge resting a hand on a bench. Here's what happens, she said, each word a rung on a ladder. Effective now, occupancy reverts to the trustee. That's Daniel. Emily, you may remain as a guest under the trustee's terms while we draft a new, temporary occupancy agreement. Those terms will include weekly family dinner, a review of household accounts, and given tonight no access for Mr. Grant without trustee permission. Mr. Grant, you are to remove any personal property that is solely yours by Monday at noon, with a deputy present. No key retention. No quick stops. If you refuse, I'll file for a restraining order tied to the trust property. Tyler stared at her, eyes small. You think you can just think? Ava said. No. I know. She nodded toward Glenn. And now we all have your exploratory chain in case you'd like to discuss intent in a different venue. Riley had drifted fully into the kitchen doorway now, her face bright with the kind of attention a ring light can't purchase. This is, wow, she breathed. Are you okay? Emily didn't look at her. She looked at me. What do you want me to do, Dad? There it was. Not defiance. Not show. Just a question that found its mark. I let a beat pass so I wouldn't put anger where love belonged. Sit down with me on Tuesday, I said. We'll make a list: debts, obligations, clients. We'll call a counselor. We'll rebuild the weekly dinner into a real dinner. And you'll apologize not for my ego but because words matter. She nodded once. Okay. Tyler barked a laugh, but it wasn't aimed at humor. You're going to let him handle your life? I'm going to handle my life, Emily said, voice low now, each syllable landing square. You tried to sell my house. Our house, he said. No, she said. Not ours. Not yours. Riley finally put her phone away. The room had the feel of a show that wasn't fun anymore. Mrs. Whitaker shifted, the way older women do when they decide they've seen enough past their bedtime. Glenn checked his watch, then his eyes met mine and he gave a small, respectful nod. A man who knows when an inspection is done. Ava gathered the papers, slid them back into her portfolio, and then this surprised me: set Laura's recipe card on top. One last thing, she said, glancing at the living room, then back at Emily. It would be wise to end the party now. Kindly. Tell your guests there's been a family matter and you're rescheduling. The longer this sits under the lights, the more it becomes theater. Theater is Tyler's turf. Real life is ours. Emily looked out at the room, at the people nibbling olives, pretending not to listen, at the bubbles dying quietly in half-finished flutes. She took a breath, squared her shoulders, and walked to the center of the living room. The music still played, but lower, as if the playlist itself had lost confidence. Hi everyone, she said, voice steadying as it went. I'm sorry to do this, but we're going to wrap early tonight. There's a family situation I need to handle. Thank you for coming. She looked at me for half a second. We'll send out a new date. There was the rustle of disappointed charm. People like Riley murmured sympathetic little sounds. Mrs. Whitaker squeezed my forearm as she passed, a small, private gesture that said, "Good." Tyler stayed rooted. When the guests began to slip out, he turned to me, then to Ava. "You think this is the last word?" he hissed, all the polish gone. Ava met his stare without blinking. "No," she said. "This is the first lawful word. The last will be whatever you choose next." He looked at Emily, maybe hoping for the old script. The plea, the laugh, the pivot. It didn't come. She picked up a trash bag and started clearing glasses with the quiet focus of someone taking back the room. He left without slamming the door. I didn't realize that mattered until it did. The house exhaled. That's the only way to describe it. The air stopped rattling and settled into itself. I stood by the piano and touched the polished wood, my fingertips finding the little nick near middle C where Laura had once set a mug too hard. The lilies on top smelled clean, almost too clean. She'd have chosen peonies, I thought, and almost smiled. Emily came back from the door, the trash bag tied neatly, set aside. "Dad," she said, stopping a safe distance from me. "I'm sorry. Not for the claws. For the words. For making you stand in the rain like a delivery guy." I swallowed, then nodded. "Thank you." She glanced at the recipe card. "Is that your mother's?" I said. She wrote something on the back. Emily picked it up, read the tiny line. "Love is patient, but it is not a welcome mat," she said aloud, and the softness in her voice made the piano seem to hear. Ava checked her watch. "I'll file the notice first thing in the morning," she said. "Glenn, thank you for the handoff." Glenn tipped 2 fingers. "Happy to do right by a house." He and Ava left together, the umbrella opening to take them. When the door closed, Emily and I stood in the quiet living room. The city sounds filtered through the bus sighing, a distant shout, rain on leaves. The bass was gone. The only rhythm was a steady drop from the eaves. "What now?" Emily asked. "Now," I said, "we reheat the ziti." She blinked, then laughed, a small wet-edged sound. "Of course. We moved in a simple ballet that used to be second nature and would have to become so again." She cleared space on the counter. I slid the dish from the insulated bag and peeled back the foil. Steam rose, rich with garlic and tomato. She found plates. I found forks. We ate standing up like people who've shared kitchens and silences before. After a few bites, she said, "I thought strength meant distance." "It doesn't," I said. "Strength means boundaries. Distance is something else." She nodded, chewing, thinking. After a while, she said, "On Tuesday, can we start with the budget?" I think I have. "We'll start there," I said. "And with an apology you'll write, not because you're a brand, but because you're a person who said a thing she needs to own." She didn't argue. She set her fork down and placed the recipe card on the piano, just so, next to the lilies. Then she pressed the low A. It vibrated through the soles of our shoes and into our ribs, the same note that had greeted us the week the tuner came. I stood next to her and let the sound sit while the rain thinned to mist. The hallway is long, I thought, but there's a door with music at the end. Tuesday could wait. Tonight had turned. The house knew it. So did we. Seattle always smells different after a storm. The air feels scrubbed, like the city has been rinsed clean, but under that freshness there's still the scent of whatever the rain couldn't wash away. That night, the storm outside had quieted, but the one in Emily's living room was still there, muted now, yes, but not gone. When Ava left the previous night with Glenn, she'd left me with 3 words: Hold your ground. That was exactly what I intended to do. By morning, word had already traveled farther than I expected. Capitol Hill has its own kind of gossip network, neighbors who water plants at just the right moment to catch snippets, baristas who remember every whispered conversation over lattes, yoga classmates who pass along concerns between stretches. The party was barely over and already I'd gotten 2 texts from people who'd heard some wild story about me showing up with my lawyer and kicking Tyler out. Let them talk. Talking meant they were telling at least part of the truth. The deputy from the King County Sheriff's Department was scheduled to come Monday morning, but Ava called me early Sunday to say she'd managed to move it up. Deputy Morales will be there at 2 this afternoon, she said. I suggest you arrive at 1:30. Gives you time to prepare the ground before Tyler shows. Prepare the ground, I repeated, liking the construction metaphor. Got it. By noon, I packed a file box with everything relevant. The original trust documents, the printed email chain Tyler forged, Glenn's witness statement, and because I wanted it on the record, the recipe card. Not because it was legal evidence, but because I wanted to make sure the deputy understood why this mattered. This wasn't a petty squabble over a house. This was about boundaries written with love, then trampled. When I arrived at the townhouse, Emily opened the door before I could knock. She looked tired, but there was something in her posture I hadn't seen in a while. Straight shoulders, chin level. Dad, she said, stepping aside. Emily, I said, giving her a small nod as I came in. The piano was still in the same place, polished, lilies freshened with water. Coffee? She asked. I won't say no. We didn't talk much while she brewed it. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, no curated photo-ready outfit. Maybe it was intentional, maybe not. Either way, she looked more like my daughter and less like her brand. I told Tyler to come at 1, she said finally, setting a mug on the counter in front of me. I didn't tell him you'd be here. That's fine, I said. He'd find out soon enough. Tyler showed up right on time, as if punctuality could erase what he'd done. He walked in without knocking habit, I guessed, and stopped short when he saw me at the counter with my coffee. Oh, he said, the words sour in his mouth. So this is a whole production. Good to see you too, I said evenly. Emily stayed near the piano, arms crossed. Tyler, you have until Monday at noon to get your things out. That's already more than Ava wanted to give you. Yeah, well, Ava's not exactly impartial, he said, glancing at me. She's your dad's friend. She's the trust's attorney, I corrected. And she's here to protect its interests. Which, for the record, includes Emily but does not include you. He smirked. You think you've won something here? She'll come around. You can't play the hero forever, old man. Maybe not, I said. But I can enforce the agreement you both signed. And that's all I need to do today. At exactly 1:30, Ava arrived, her coat zipped up against the chill. A minute later, Deputy Morales stepped in, tall, calm, clipboard in hand. He had the easy manner of someone who'd done this before. Afternoon, folks, Morales said. I understand there's a trust property transition in process. My job is just to make sure it happens without anyone losing their cool. That works for me, I said. Tyler snorted. Yeah, I bet it does. Ava handed Morales a folder. This contains the executed trust agreement, evidence of breach, and a written reversion notice delivered to both parties yesterday. Morales scanned it, then looked at Tyler. You're Mr. Grant? That's me, Tyler said, trying for casual. You're not on the trust, Morales said, as much a statement as a question. No, Tyler said, his tone tightening. Then you'll need to vacate as directed, Morales said. You can collect personal belongings today or tomorrow morning, but you're not to remove any items covered under the trust inventory. What inventory? Tyler asked. The one you didn't bother to read when you moved in, I said. Includes the piano, by the way. Tyler's eyes flicked to Emily. Seriously? You're letting him keep this thing like you're a guest in your own house. I am a guest, Emily said. For now. Until I earn back the right to live here without conditions. Her words landed like a brick. Tyler blinked, not expecting her to own it out loud. Wow, he said. Guess I overestimated you. Emily didn't answer. She just moved to the door, opened it, and said, You should start packing. The packing itself was anticlimactic. Tyler stomped around upstairs for an hour, Morales shadowing him. The thumps and the occasional drawer slam carried through the house, but no one reacted. Emily sat at the piano bench, idly pressing keys, soft chords that hung in the air without resolving. I stayed at the counter with my coffee, Ava beside me reviewing the timeline for filing the amended occupancy agreement. When Tyler came down with his last bag, he didn't look at me. He didn't look at Emily either. He just muttered something under his breath and brushed past Morales out the door. Morales followed him out, then came back a few minutes later. He's gone, he said. No property damage, nothing suspicious in the loadout. You're clear. Thank you, Deputy, Ava said. He tipped his head and left. The front door clicked shut behind him, leaving just the two of us and Ava. That's it, Ava said, closing her portfolio. Tyler's out. Emily, you remain under the new conditions we discussed: weekly dinners, financial transparency, and continued occupancy of the heirloom piano. I understand, Emily said. Ava's gaze softened slightly. It's not just about rules. It's about not letting people erode the structures that keep you standing. Emily nodded. I get that now. I watched her fingers on the piano keys. You'll get it more when we rebuild. Boundaries aren't walls, Em. They're doors you keep the key to. She looked up at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw no calculation in her expression, just openness. Will you stay for dinner tonight? I will, I said. Dinner wasn't fancy. We reheated the ziti I'd brought the night before, sliced some bread, poured glasses of red wine. We ate at the kitchen table, no phones, no background music, just the sound of rain returning in soft sheets against the window. Halfway through, Emily said, Dad, I've been thinking. When Mom was alive, she always said the piano was more than an instrument. She said it was a reminder. She did, I said. She said music only works if you respect the pauses as much as the notes. Emily smiled faintly. I haven't been respecting the pauses. That can change, I said. Later, after Ava left and the dishes were done, Emily and I sat at the piano. She played a halting version of one of Laura's favorite pieces, Clair de Lune. Her fingers stumbled, but the melody was there, fragile and beautiful. When she finished, she looked at me. I'm sorry, Dad. For all of it. For thinking that keeping you away made me look stronger. I know, I said. And I'm proud of you for saying it. She wiped at her eyes. Will you play something? I hadn't touched the piano in years, but I sat down and let my fingers find a simple chord progression. Not perfect, not polished, but enough to fill the room. The revenge wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Tyler was gone. The trust stood intact. Emily understood the weight of her promises now. And the house, the one Laura and I had chosen to protect her, was safe. The justice was in the quiet that followed, in the way Emily didn't flinch when I set the recipe card on the piano, in the way she asked when our next dinner would be. Boundaries held. Respect restored. The deed, both literal and figurative, was back where it belonged. And in the soft hum of the low A vibrating through the floor, I could almost hear Laura say, "Good inspection, Daniel. House is sound." I believed her. When I walked away from that townhouse the night Emily told me to leave, I thought the hurt might stick forever. But sometimes, the things that wound you most are the same things that force you to draw a line you should have drawn long ago. This wasn't just about a trust document, a piano, or a set of rules. It was about love with structure, the kind that refuses to let disrespect pass as independence. It was about protecting the home Laura and I envisioned for our daughter, not just the walls and roof, but the values inside. Tyler's absence was almost a silence you could touch. No background scheming, no subtle digs. Emily filled that space with music, conversation, and, slowly, the kind of dinners I'd hoped the weekly tradition would become. Justice didn't roar that night. It spoke calmly, carried on the letter of an agreement and the steady beat of resolve. And as I sat with Emily, sharing ziti and laughter that didn't feel forced, I realized the house wasn't the only thing we'd reclaimed. Sometimes the people you love most need you to be their boundary before you can be their comfort. And please subscribe to this channel.